Who is it for? Is this a personal library or a study of self? Are you trying to figure out who you are as a person? Or are you just learning little facts about the world? Like, how many people does Texas have? 31 million? Are we sure? Just, who is it for? You gotta figure that out pretty quickly or early. Except you don't. So, showing my books. Yeah, so I'm not really showing off my books. This is a binder. And this is the Commonplace Binder playlist. So I will not be showing off my books. However, one of the things you can do with your binder is you can write down all the fun books that you like to read. I guess I could start just grabbing random books from over here. But if you want a dedicated book, if you want a dedicated video on the books that I have and me showing off the books I have, then I guess you can request that. But for now, we're going to talk about my hands. Why are they wiggling? Yeah, and what do they have to do with this? Well, if you have trouble typing, because it's hard on your hands, probably don't do that. If you have trouble writing, because it's hard on your hands, probably don't do that. You might need to find the thing which is better for your body rather than better for your mind, because if it is so bad for your body, you're not going to be able to focus, and that's going to be a huge problem. Because sometimes people are like, oh, this is very mindful, and like, yeah, but if you don't have your mind, if there's nothing going on upstairs, or if you need to protect your ears because just random audio is too much of a problem for you, like if there's just extra stimuli, like, oh my god, the light, then maybe fix your environment a little bit. Obviously, there are only so many things you can do to fix your environment, but like the headset is able to eliminate like half the problem of me recording at any time of day. And so that is quite nice. Because it means I don't have to only record between 2 and 6 in the morning. And I do appreciate not only being awake at 2 to 6 in the morning. So wearing that headset is quite nice. No compromises. Yeah, you're not gonna make any compromises. You're not gonna not gonna wear the headset. You're gonna write the stuff or type the stuff or whatever in exactly the way that you want every single time. There might be wind. There might be wind. It might just blow everything all over the place. You're probably gonna have to make some compromises. Just like this is probably not only a personal library or a study of yourself, it's probably both things. So, unfortunately, we cannot do only one thing. Except we can. The one thing that we should be doing is taking up space. Look at that. Remember, you can take up space. That is okay. Now, I don't necessarily mean taking up as many spaces in the parking lot as humanly possible with your car. That's probably a bad idea. I don't think that's allowed, but I don't drive, so who knows. Taking up space might mean taking up a big chunk of the page. You can do that. It's okay. I mean, it might be expensive, but like sometimes space is part of the design. So if you leave space, that's okay. Now, I will say it is also fun to cram as many possible things as you can onto one page until all of a sudden you have to find something, and then it becomes a huge problem. So if you're only writing one thing on each page, that might seem like a terrible idea, but if you have a binder system rather than a notebook system, you can write the one thing on one page, and then when you're done with that, you can cross it out, toss it in your scrap paper pile, and then when you use a new sheet of paper, you can take it from the scrap paper pile. And if the thing is properly crossed out, then you have what? Like a full side of the page, which is completely blank, and the other side is almost entirely blank. So it might be a little counterintuitive, but sometimes actually only writing one thing on the page can save paper if you reuse the paper. That was a lot. Was that about take up space? I sure hope it was, because we're moving on to personal library. So, some of you who are watching probably have a lot of books, like a lot. And some people have also watched lots of movies or YouTube videos or whatever else. You should probably write down a list of the things you've seen. Now, this is going to be incredibly tedious, and this is one of the reasons why I think digital is pretty good, and why being able to print out things to put in the binder is also very nice. Because you can make a list of all the things you've seen, all the things that have been recommended to you, who they've been recommended by, and then after you see everything, you can figure out what you want to watch next, what you might want to rewatch, what you never want to see again. Maybe you figure out that you want to write reviews on all the different things. Or maybe you want to recommend them to someone else. I don't know, because I don't have your list. And so if you don't have your list either, maybe it might be fun to get that. List of movies. That is next, and I did not see that, so I probably should have skimmed ahead. Very focused on the thing in front of me. So, list of movies, make a list of movies. It's, the fewer movies that you've seen or watched, the easier that list is going to be. If you've seen like 600 plus movies, probably don't do that by hand, okay? So, that might hurt your hand, and that probably won't be fun. But, if you write down like one new movie every time you go through it, probably won't be that bad. Or if it's just movies that you would like to see in the future, it's fine. Journal. Okay, so if we're talking about commonplace binders or, more of a traditional commonplace book, it's probably at least somewhat like a journal. Now, some people hate the concept of this. They will say that it is only about one specific thing. I don't think I've run into anybody who says it's only a journal. Maybe some people say that. I haven't watched every single video on the subject. I have looked through all the thumbnails though, and wow, there were a lot fewer than I was expecting. But yeah, basically, if you have a journal, you can upgrade it quite easily. Basically, all you're going to do is keep journaling, and you might have a little bit more organization, some notes in the margins, maybe an index if you have a notebook. It's fine. And digital is also fine. Digital is okay. Do not worry if you have Notion or Obsidian or whatever else. It's not the end of the world. It's a thing. Okay? And, some people will talk about every hammer being able to find a nail if the person has a hammer. I'm not sure exactly how that saying goes, but if you look through everything and you're like, it has to be a commonplace, you might kind of stress yourself out for no reason. So don't worry too much about that. It's just in a different form. You can make this out of clay if you really want to. I don't know why you would do that. It feels like it'd be super time consuming and expensive, and you'd have to figure out where to store it. But one of the reasons why books are so good is because they can store information for hundreds of years. And if you, lose the book, or if it gets damaged in some way, that sucks. And so that's one reason why digital is so good. But the problem with digital is, of course, how long is it going to last? I mean, you can probably guarantee it'll last a year if you don't accidentally delete it or misplace it. But 100 years? Maybe not. So digital is fine. It's just, be careful how you use it, just like everything else. Study of self. So just like personal library, study of self is part of the title. So in case anyone forgot how I make my titles, just a reminder, I look through all the thumbnails on the category, categorize them like crazy, and write certain things which I thought were relevant to what the videos were talking about. Not within the videos themselves, but just the title, thumbnail, and first line of the description. So, yeah. Study of self. What are you going to learn about yourself? So, you can kind of just write whatever, and whatever you write will probably help you in some way if you think about it for long enough. Now, if you're just doing like a bleh all over the page, I don't know if you can see my hands there. I guess you could, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, you might just be writing out like, I'm an American who speaks English, who doesn't speak any other languages. And that might suck, or it might sound like it sucks. But if you're talking to people who are learning English, that might actually be incredibly valuable to them. Now, they're not necessarily going to pay you for that, especially when there's so many random AI tools and the ability to talk to people from all over the place. But you could talk to people from all over the place. And you might find that's kind of fun. And if you're trying to study yourself, maybe the thing that you do is try to study other people. So maybe you will figure out how to interact with people from other countries. Yep. And the next thing is to verbalize. Yeah, so after you've written stuff down, maybe it's good to talk about it with people from other countries. Yeah, verbalize the stuff. So it might be that you're trying to work through something and you don't really want to talk to friends or family about it, but you don't really know who to talk to because, it's like a new business idea, or it's some very strong opinions about foam. It's like, foam? Why? But if you're talking to a completely random person from another place, it might be that they have an interest in that. Now, obviously, not everyone is going to walk up to someone and be like, oh, yes, the foam and the air quality and, wow. Like, not everyone's going to be hyped about that. But yeah, make the thing, talk about what you're comfortable with. Maybe you have that conversation with yourself and you record it and then turn it into text or take notes on it. Yeah, maybe you're just taking notes on yourself. That would be kind of silly. Or would it? Who knows? Maybe the thing to do is record a bunch of videos with your friends where you're playing some video games and then take some notes on that. So then you have a video description. Or I guess you could just use the AI tools. That's one of those things. This is a very old technology, so there are some things where people might be like, I don't know if that's the best use of my time. But in some ways, it's also really good because while it can be really cool to, just like use a lighter to light a candle, if someone's never actually made a real fire with like wood and other things from nature, it might be cool to learn that. I mean, if you live in a building, you're probably not going to need to make a fire every day. But like, maybe you will? I don't know. Boxes or cabinets? Yeah, now if you live in a place with boxes or cabinets, it's probably not the best idea to hyperfixate on fire. Probably don't do that. So what do you hyperfixate on if you have boxes or cabinets? Well, things that go in the boxes or cabinets. But in some ways, you got to be a little careful about this. So one of the problems with a digital system or with a binder system is technically there's no limit. So you can just keep putting things in and then you take the least relevant stuff out and you put that somewhere else. And you're like, it's fine. It's kind of a mess, but it's fine. And so your thing might fill your entire space. You might have giant piles of paper. Oh no. Yeah, that definitely happened to me. Now, of course, it happened over the course of tens of thousands of pages, but it didn't all start in one day. So I would deprioritize things rather than deleting them outright, so I wasn't just throwing stuff away. I was just putting it in places where less and less valuable information was, and now I have extra stuff, which I should probably toss because it's just not good anymore. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to page through it using the finger protector thing that I showed in the video, which probably came out in December of 2024. Basically, it just allows me to grip the page better, although I might have to put it on a different finger because this finger might be a little damaged because of all the gaming and not stretching properly. After the death of my finger. No. Hopefully my finger never dies because I use the finger for a lot because, this is my dominant hand, so when I'm writing, I'm using that. When I'm typing, I'm using that. It would be very, very inconvenient. So what happens after death? Who gets your commonplace? Now, some people historically got rid of it, immediately. They were like, that is my diary. No one sees that for any reason. Although, it might be you had a journal and you happen to be an emperor or something. So all of a sudden everybody's just like, I guess I'll keep that. I could sell that. I could turn that into something. This could be a great time. So what happens after death? It kind of depends on the person. You might want to figure that out. It might not be after your death. It might be after the death of your binder. Or it might be after the death of someone you know. Sorry, I just realized I'm probably saying a word over and over again that the platform will not appreciate. But anyways, um, after death, lots of things can happen. Institution. So institutions don't change as much as individuals on individual days most of the time. And in some ways that's good, and in other ways that's kind of bad. So if you have a procedure for yourself, you can change that. But if you have a procedure for 100 people, even if the change is perfect, it's going to need some time to get rolled out, and not everyone is going to be happy about it. So why is that relevant? Well, in my next playlist, for 2026, I will be talking about how I think this sort of thing could go in schools. Schools are an institution, so how is that going to work? Stay tuned for the next playlist. Oh, look at that! Students! That's really funny. I hadn't prepped this. Yeah, so if you have a student that's using this, they might not want to be totally honest in their journal or diary, because why would they? Especially if it's being graded. That means people are looking at it. Oh, that's so uncomfortable. So I think the way that students would use this would be more of a general knowledge sort of thing that would help them at the beginning of the school year. Kind of like in the first 2 weeks, nobody really does anything in most classes. They just go through everything that they did the year before, and they're like, all right, we're all caught up now. Now we can proceed with the rest of the material. Required to use. If you are a student that is required to use this, I hope it works for you. I mean, it should be fine. We might have a problem if there's a whole institution of people who are just flipping their pages all day, and it's making a whole bunch of noise. So it might be that a school actually uses tablets rather than a binder or a book. Because that way, if the school already has the tablets or the laptops or whatever, then you're only going to have to hear the sound of the clicking. I don't know. There are a lot of things that can go wrong, badly, or really well, but I don't really want to get into that right now. Assignment presentation. So it might be you prep something in your commonplace book or commonplace binder, and then have a wall presentation like this, except it would probably be a PowerPoint presentation if you're doing it in school. I don't totally know how I feel about that. I don't know if everybody does PowerPoints anymore, or if it's just like, I will email this to my fellow classmates. It'd be very funny if 5th grade works like that now. How to label. So if this is a personal library that other people will be accessing, you probably want to make things easily understood by everyone else. On the other hand, if this is a study of self, and you're hiding something sensitive, like really personal thoughts or passwords or something, maybe you'll just title that as Jar Jar Binks. And so unless someone's like really into Star Wars, they're not going to open that. They're never going to look through that. Obviously, if there's a bot that can, scan everything digitally, they're going to find that pretty quickly. I think. I don't know. I've never done that sort of thing. But basically, the way you label things kind of doesn't matter if it's your thing. But if it's going to be shared with a bunch of other people, it obviously does matter. I think we just did this, which means we're all done. And now we're on tour or flip through. So this was a personal library or a study of self. And if you want to check out the next video, that is a little bit of what that is. So thank you for joining me for this very verbalized presentation, which was a little bit too verbalized as we are approaching the 20-minute mark. So thank you for your time. I hope I didn't take too much of it. Let me know if having 20 items to talk about is too many. I guess I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.